Hey, I know I said that the next video in the Homestead Security series was going to be about threat assessment, hasty and deliberate. Started thinking about it though. So the last one we talked about OpSec. Threat assessment comes in step 3 of the 5-step OpSec process. So I thought that we would continue the theme of OpSec and go through the steps one at a time so you can learn more about them, the terminology, and the concepts involved with them. So, this video, instead of being threat assessment, is going to be about steps 1 and 2. Identifying critical information and identifying threats. Stick around. Hey, welcome back to Grumpy Acres. So, the reason why I'm going to roll steps 1 and 2 into the same video is because identifying critical information is a pretty simple task that won't take me long to talk about, and it rolls right into step 2, identifying threats, because the information that you're trying to protect is going to dictate what kind of threats you may have. Alright? So, let me start off by saying this series is called Homestead Security. For the most part, though, it applies whether you live on a suburban lot, in an apartment, or on a great big homestead. Small homestead, medium-sized homestead, whatever. OpSec is a topic that applies across the board to everybody. So, if you don't live on a big homestead, don't think this won't help you, because if you follow these, you'll be more secure no matter where you live. Okay, with that said, let's go on. Step 1, identifying critical information. So, the easiest way to describe critical information is it's information that acts like puzzle pieces that the bad guys can use to put together to form a good enough picture that they can plan their activities against you. And those activities could be a myriad of things. Right now, we're primarily concerned about financial and physical security. It goes way deeper than that, but those are the two that most people are going to be dealing with. So, what kind of information is critical information? Well, we've got PII, personal identifying information, which is any piece of information that ties directly to you, like your name, your birthday, social security number, your address, phone number, any information like that. If they can get a hold of that information, especially your name, birthday, and social security number, they can unlock a whole myriad of tools to use against you. Alright, so we want to keep that stuff safe. Another form of critical information is PHI, personal health information. Alright, so that's information that your doctors and clinics and stuff use that are tied directly to you. It includes your name, your phone number, social security number, all that PII stuff. It also includes medical information, like your doctor's name, any ailments you may have, any meds you're on, any treatments that you've been taking. It involves all that stuff. That's why, if you've heard of HIPAA, the Health Information Protection Act, that's why that one is so big at hospitals, and you're always signing that HIPAA form. That's information. Another form of critical information is financial information. Bank account numbers, credit card numbers, anything like that. Deposit amounts, withdrawal amounts, anything associated with your financial status is considered critical information. And then another form of critical information, let's see, scheduling. Any schedules that you may have. Knowing when you're at home and when you're not at home. Knowing when you're at work. Knowing when you're going to be on vacation. Any of that scheduling information is critical information because it can all be used to create that picture that the bad guys can use to plan against you. Another one, the physical layout of your property, your house, your homestead, your apartment, anything like that, any security information that you may have, you know, whether you've got gates, you've got codes to doors, if it's key carded, if it's voice activated, anything like that, any security information on the physical location is critical information. The layout, knowing where all the buildings are and where all the important equipment is, that's important because they can use that to go directly to what they want to steal. So as you can see, critical information, there's quite a bit of it, and it's all mundane stuff that we deal with every day. So think about your critical information. I'm going to give you some homework. So here's your first bit of homework for between now and next video. Think about your critical information. And if you come up with any other critical information that I did not have in my list, go ahead and put it in the comment down below. Share it. Don't tell us what your critical information is, but tell us the category it could be in. So we've identified critical information. Now we need to identify our threats. And this is a much more in-depth topic, and it takes a little bit longer to do, and it's more wide-ranging. So now that we know the information that we're protecting, we can identify threats against that. How do we do that? How do we identify threats? Well, the most thorough way to do it is to do an area study. And what an area study is, it's a study of the geographical, political, infrastructure, everything in your area. That is a proper area study. Now, do we need to know about the infrastructure in the area? Well, yeah, we do. It's kind of important to the security of your homestead. You know, what if you're on public water or a well? You know, those could be areas of vulnerability, and so somebody may be able to take advantage of that. So what we're mostly looking for is individuals and organizations and entities that may pose a threat to your well-being. Individuals and entities, criminals and gangs. Those are the biggest ones we're going to face. And it's not just in a physical aspect, it's in a financial aspect, a cyber aspect too. Because we live in the digital age. I mean, there's no getting around it. All your information's out there, and it's very vulnerable. And just as much as you got to take steps on physically on the homestead to protect your information, you got to take steps digitally to protect your information. All right, and we'll discuss those steps later on in step 4 and 5. That's not important right now. We're just talking about identifying the steps, identifying the threats. So how do we do that? So we can do an area study. Part of that study is reading the local newspaper. Most newspapers in small towns have the police blotter in it, just to tell you what calls were taken, what arrests were made. You can gain a lot of information from those police blotters. And then also the newspapers are going to talk about the political and economic status of the area and all that too. Another thing that I mentioned before you could do is talk to law enforcement. I talked to law enforcement in my locale this week, and they identified a couple of things that are of concern to me. There's a town not far away where they've had 5 car thefts in the last month when they haven't had any in the last year and a half. So there's somebody in that town that is stealing cars. It's not just random. There's that many. That's a trend. But I talked to social services for the area I live in, and come to find out that the average child and social services rate for the national is about 7.5%, and for this area, it's at times it's up in the mid-30s. All right. So what's that tell you? It tells you there's a lot of broken homes. There's a lot of people that need help in that manner, which unfortunately that leads to increased crime. So we know that there's a threat there. And in today's day and age, you know, I hate to say this, but the government can be a threat. So knowing the politics of your area, pay attention to the elections news and the what's going on in your local city governments and county governments, even nationally. That can identify threats to us. So there's several different ways that we can do this. Now here's your second piece of homework before the next video. I'd like each and every one of you to go out and after you've identified the critical information you're trying to protect, I want you to go out and spend some time this week trying to identify potential threats in your area. We all know that neighbor that's kind of sketchy, that the police are always over at their house. We know the politician that's always looking to take a little freedom away from us. We hear about hacks that are happening all the time. Have any of these recent hacks affected your digital information or your digital privacy? So go out and read the local newspapers, watch the news a little bit. If you get a chance to, talk to law enforcement if you can, find out what's going on in their wheelhouse, and just spend some time trying to figure out what threats you may face. And once you do that, you can start formulating a plan. You can start figuring out, okay, what threats are really important, what threats do I really not need to worry about. Step 3. Step 4, we know what the threats are. We find out how important they are in step 3. And step 4, we start planning for them. We start planning to counter any of those threats that we may see. So knowing what you're protecting and who you're protecting against are the first 2 steps in the OpSec process. Now, it's really not rocket science, folks. Seriously, it's dead simple, and people make it out to be way harder than it actually is. It's just a matter of applying these principles to your daily life and understanding. And this is an iterative process. We identify the step or the critical information in step 1, and we identify the threats in step 2. 6 months from now, that may not be the same. The information that you're protecting may not be the same. The threats you may face. The police may have broken up a car stealing ring in the last month and a half or month since you went through the process the last time, and that threat may no longer exist. So that's why it's an iterative process. We go through it over and over and over and over to make sure that everything's working the way it's supposed to. All right, listen. I hope you guys found this enjoyable and informative. If you did, go ahead and hit that thumbs up button. Let YouTube know that you like us. Same with Rumble. If you liked it if you're watching on Rumble, go ahead and watch that. I've got BitChute in the description. Quite honestly, it's a hassle to put stuff on BitChute. There's some content out there, but I'm really not updating that on a regular basis. Maybe if BitChute comes out with an import process that works, I may start doing that. Until then, YouTube and Rumble are the 2 places you're going to see us the most. We've got a Facebook page. If you like it, you can go there. We share everything out there. If you like the video, go ahead and share it. Hit that notification bell so that you know when the next Homestead security video drops. All right. Until next time, I want everybody to think about your security. Go out there and pursue a life of freedom. Thanks, Milo.